This stream is for entertainment purposes. The opinions expressed by the participants might be exaggerated for comedic effect. Harsh language can be used. Thought-provoking or controversial topics may be discussed.
Hello and welcome to Tear Off Your Skin. I'm joined today by Sam G. I put the link to his podcast on Spotify in the description below. And Sam G this week made an excellent one about clowning around or goofing around, goofballing in RPG, and how it's a problem that's so prevalent, right? People cannot be serious. You cannot sit there seriously for a few hours of your time to immerse yourself in a character, right, in a situation.
Man,
How are you doing, guys?
I'm great. I'm great, Max. I'm great. Thanks for taking the time and coming back on that episode that I did last week or this week. It's one that I wanted to do for a long time, and actually, it's funny. I was thinking about it. Where does the word goofballing comes from? Like in my vocabulary, and it is from Shauna actually.
Oh yeah, really?
Yeah, it's a story exactly about that topic. We used to have a traveler game, a long traveler game with many people from the RPG brigade back in the days, and it lasted for many sessions. And Shauna was at a certain point during the campaign, he got frustrated with one of the players because he felt that the guy was goofballing. He said he's just a goofball. You know, what's the movie? What's the movie that is in space? It's kind of like a comedy
Spaceball?
Spaceball. You know, with the small Darth Vader kind of. Yeah, it's like he's goofballing. He's just like that. He's playing Spaceball in Traveler. He was pissed, and it's one of the first time I was kind of exposed to that phenomenon and realized that it was a thing that some people did not like. Personally, you know, when I started in this hobby, it was early in my experience. I felt like that humoristic behavior was just fun. You know, I was like, oh, it's just fun. You know, we a bunch of people together. Sometimes we drink and we make jokes and we make puns. But I realized some people did not like it, and eventually I end up not liking it that much neither.
And I'm one that really dislike it, right? And I'm a goofball person in real life, right? I joke a lot. I make a lot of I make a lot of like insane joke about it and bad moments, and I have like very little limits. But when I come to play a game, right, that's what I'm trying to do, right? And I want to be immersed, and I want to see the world in the mindset of my character. And I find like those out of character jokes, because that's what we're talking about, really, right? I played humoristic character. I played character with sense of humor. Characters that can make joke in the game and stuff like that, right? But they're in character jokes, and sometimes humoristic situation happen in the game like they do in life, right? And those are fine, and you can have a chuckle of those. But it's when you trying to push a joke out of character. You're not immersed. You're just trying to get to score some point and make people laugh, right? That really fucking annoys me. And I think you mentioned in the podcast that people do it to break tension, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's correct. But this tension, shouldn't be broken.
This
You
is
should
important.
embrace it. Yes.
Of course. And the thing is that it's a habit or a behavior or a phenomena. I don't know which one I want to use, but it takes many forms. Have you noticed this one? Sometimes it takes the form of a funny accent. Sometimes it takes the form of silly behaviors through the character. Sometimes it takes the form of the name of the character. Some people they make like funny words in their names. I'm Mick something, or I'm this guy, and it makes a kind of joke in their name. So whenever the name come up in the game, everybody's kind of laughing. Everybody laugh, and it takes so many different forms, and it's kind of like some kind of a silliness, like you said, you know, to break tension. And For me,
a lot of them is like a sexual innuendo, right? Those come back a lot.
Oh yeah, it's kind of like a cycle.
Yeah,
it's a cycling thing, and for me, there's no. It's not about like it should be serious and all that, but it should be serious. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna give an example. Like, if you play a game like a pulp game or a genre that's supposed to be funny, you're gonna wait for those because they are important for the genre. But if you don't, you should be disciplined. Because you want to be true to genre. And for me, it gets annoying. And the reason why I wanted to make a podcast about it is that even though we try sometimes, it always sneaks in. It's insidious. I don't know if you've encountered that experience that way, but for me, different.
With the guys I play with now, right, with Crispy and Phil, right, we managed to have like game that like there's often jokes in the game and stuff like that. There's often but they're in character, they're in the world, they're not like immersion breaking, right? Comical situation like the guy I'm playing now, like in the Horizon campaign, he's a bit of a jerk and he throws a lot of joke at people, right? He teases people a lot and stuff like that. That's part of the character I'm playing now, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're not like I'm not like bringing in like 80s reference. I'm not making like a silly thing about like stuff that happened in real life or joke that are not in character, right?
Or act like a goofball in character and do all kinds of stupid stuff. Some people and Tomb of Lime mentioned it in his video, his recent video about horror. And for me, it's this idea where the game is getting serious. There is some tension, and for some reason, it's becoming uncomfortable. And I kind of made this argument, and that might come out controversial, but I made this point in my episode where I say, this hobby is for some people it's kind of cringy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because you talk with a voice sometimes, you act, as a character, you kind of
play pretend, right?
You play pretend as a grown man, exactly, with a bunch of grown men around the table or people, grown adults. So so for some people it's uncomfortable, even after 20 years. So they kind of,
and a lot of people also like sometimes like it's something they did when they were young. Now they feel like they should have left it behind, and they feel a bit uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're going to do that, right, just do it right, because like, yes, it's a bit silly. It's a bit you pretend to be somebody else and stuff like that, but it's only cringe if you don't do it seriously, in my mind, right? Just like once you're there, right, just like commit to it and enjoy the experience. If you're just there, like now you're kind of like pretending to play pretend, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now that's fucking cringe.
That's infinite regression. Let's say we use 1D, 2D, 3D, 4D. So even in 4D play, or 2D where you are in character. So I'm not talking about, let's put behind like 1D, 2D. Let's just stick to 3D, 4D. So everybody's in character all the time. Nobody's asking questions and all that.
Yep.
Even in those kind of games, even when we tried, to have a very serious one, me and some of my serious group I play with, some guy ended up, sliding it in, and so it's not necessarily about making a jokes or making an 80s reference. Sometimes it's just about the themes, the role play, the way they speak, and people get tired of staying serious. I kind of, that's why I'm challenging some people out there. I'm like, okay, so is it true? Have you achieved it to play? Let's say I'm asking you right now, and anybody, if there's some people watching, have you achieved a year-long campaign with a group of 5 that stayed serious all the time, like very serious all the time, like a horror campaign for 10 sessions, let's say? That's kind of long. That stayed serious with no jokes, no nothing, no lighthearted stuff. I think
one thing that would really help.
I kind of think it's not possible.
How long were the session you were playing? Were they long session?
Which one?
This game that you say, like you talk about the game that feed.
Oh man, that feed game, feed
Yeah.
campaign lasted. We couldn't finish it. We lasted 3 sessions.
But how
It
long were
was
the
two,
sessions?
3 hours. 3 hours. Yeah, 3 hours
Okay.
session.
Because I was thinking like maybe if the session gets too long, then maybe the
That's a
tension
good
become a
idea.
bit more to so maybe like having shorter session, right? Should
Shorter
help.
session that could help.
And
Yeah.
if you stay in character, you can do much more in shorter session, right? We know that, right? Just like
Mhm.
we not like a 40 minutes round of combat.
Yeah, of course,
It's
of
like,
course.
yeah.
But I think the too serious. Let's say you want to make an experiment where you want to be dramatic and
Yeah.
horror and all that. It's hard on the mind. It's
Yeah.
hard on the
And
mind. Before the session,
that's
I
the
get anxious.
that's the other point I wanted to make as well, right? I think in a campaign or in like a short or long campaign doesn't matter, right? But like when you do like a repeat session with the same character and stuff like that, you need moment of levity. You need to vary the tone a bit, right? You cannot be always like all in, super tense, because like we couldn't be bear that in life, right? In life, we need moment of levity. Now we're going into this other life, and so you need moment for the character to be able to relax a bit and let some tension. Hey, maybe make a joke and let it. If you don't do that, then the player is going to do it. That's what I think. On that, does it make sense?
Maybe, of course. Oh, definitely. And maybe that's the reason why it's kind of a fatality. It's just a tragedy. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen
And
in
if you
one way
play
or
a game
another.
that is like by nature like super dark, right, where you're a vampire and you're a monster and you're always like mean and stuff like that, and
Yeah,
you're basically a creature that wouldn't have any like moment of like a moment of reprise from that, right? Just like that could be hard to play. I can see that, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. And so I was wondering. I was just wondering. I was just asking the question because and also there is a not a stigma or a dogma, I would say, in the hobby, but this idea that it's supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
It's just as long as you're having fun, right?
Yeah.
And so I was kind of also asking the question, where is that why people are becoming goofball at one point? Is it just because this is the nature of fun, or it's kind of antithetical to have fun, crying around the table or
It's
being scared?
you can have fun by just throwing joke around and goofballing around, right?
Hmm.
But it's a different quality of fun, right?
Hmm.
And there's that as well, right? And at some point, like this type of fun is gonna go against the other type of fun, the immersive type of fun, right? Or like feel like that is more rewarding, but it's not like direct, right? Getting cheap is cheap. Getting laugh is cheap. Sorry. You can you make a joke, you get some laughs, you get your reward right away. When you role play, you're immersed in character, the reward comes at the end of the session, right? When you come back and say, "Man, that I was really fitting into it, right? I was really feeling tense and stuff like that." Like, so you don't have the immediate dopamine rush. So I think like that's but if you go for the cheap joke during the session, you're not gonna get it at the end.
Hmm.
So it's like a trade off, right? It's almost like time preference kind of shit, right?
Of course, of course, and I know, I mean, it's interesting because you kind of have to collaborate with some other people, and you don't know who's gonna what they want. Sometimes people appreciate a joke or
Mhm.
appreciate to have a little laugh. And you might have a person around the table in the group who's frustrated, and you just broke that moment for them just because you make them think about a movie, or you make them
Yep.
think about
And
whatever.
it's good also if you can like work those in character jokes or those in character like funny moment with somebody else at the table, but you have to know like, and you have like somebody to trust with, right? When I play with Phil, when we're both player, I think Phil is very funny, and I think we can make we work well together for making jokes in character, right? Because we're gonna if I throw a hook, he's gonna take it, right, and just like, and we can work at each other. So then like we're both involved, right, and so we can have this
You
moment
know,
and
I think I've noticed something when I was watching one of your games with Phil and other people in the 40 crowd. It's the it's something. It's happened. I don't know if you know what I mean. It's like you have the game, so you have like the scene happening,
Yeah.
and you have like two layers or two or three layers sometimes. So you have like Max's character, let's say Phil, for example, or Phil's character, and they are in a scene and they are talking to each other to do some problem solving for the situation. Let's say.
Yeah.
and then you have Max and Phil kind of bleeding through the character with some kind of jokes and let's say what's the word in English? I don't know, not passive aggressive comments or I'm lacking the word, but you know when you are the connivence, tu sais quand t'es de connivence avec
Yeah.
quelqu'un, so I don't know in English how it's gonna go, but it's like so I was watching.
When you resonate with
yeah, you resonate with the guy. So you have the character talking to each other to do the scene, but you will also have the player level or layer where the two players are having fun through the character, kind of making jokes at one another, but they don't want to break immersion.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like so it create that weird situation sometimes. And imagine there's a third player watching that. So you are in the group and you see these two players in character having fun with one another, kind of have third degree jokes and second degree jokes and stuff like that through the character, and so you're trying to be in character, but you know them, you know these two guys, you know Max and Phil, and you're like, they're really being silly right now, and it kind of makes
You think we're bleeding through? You were bleeding through too much, and we're like breaking the immersion further. Maybe we are.
I don't know. I have no idea. It's just something that I've noticed, and I'm asking the question: can it be a possibility, right? When you watch.
I've been in game where I've been the more serious guy. I'm not always playing a goofball like character, right? Sometimes I play a serious guy. Sometimes I play like a mean guy, whatever, right? Just like, and sometimes like I've seen other people like goofing around, right? Like in character, and then like, but since I see them, I see through the eyes of my character. I'm just like witnessing those character. Like I don't see the player at the moment, right? I'm just like seeing those guy. And then if I'm the serious guy and we need to do some shit, I'm gonna tell them, okay, guys, it's fucking enough now. We get to fucking good, stop goofing around, right? But you're telling them in character, and it's not like me reprobating the reprobating. It's not me scolding the players, right? Just like it's the character like saying like, okay, let's go, guys. Be serious for a moment.
Those are tricky sometimes. When you have a little bit of bleed and you want to stay in character and you send messages to the other player through the characters. It doesn't have to last very long, but it shows. Mm-hmm. It depends on your level of attention, and capacity to stay focused and stuff like that. Some people are very affected by that,
Yeah, I don't know if you saw, like I made a video like a little while ago. It was when I walk on the beach, right? Those kind of video. When I say like is comedy anathema to a role playing game,
Yeah.
And I say like and I can't come to a conclusion to yes, because we just had like this experiment in the UNPC of a comedy tone game when we do those ultimate no prep challenge, and we have to roll for a team, for a setting, and then we roll for a tone, right? And we roll comedy, and I was a GM. We also roll for GM, but I was a GM in that, and it was a fucking disaster.
Why?
I couldn't.
It was just too funny and too out of character.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't funny, and but it's like, because when you try to be funny and you're looking for the joke, you cannot get immersed in character. You're not in there in the moment in your character, right? And I think that's also a problem when you set up those people, like they're just like waiting for the joke, right? Or they're just like, are they gonna push it? And like it doesn't make sense for the character to do that or say that at the moment, but they're just going for the cheap laugh, right? Or they're gonna even say something not in character, right? Just like make a reference to some like 80s culture or some shit like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when and even if you're trying to do in character and you want to make your character like funny, right? Sometimes something funny happen and you can like just seize the moment. But if you try to provoke the moment, then you're not acting as a character, and I think I think that's a problem.
That's very interesting. It's very interesting what you just said. And it's very true. If you try in real life, if you try to be funny, you're not gonna be funny. So most of the time, if you try too hard to be funny, it's not gonna work.
Yeah.
And in character is also the same thing. If you try too hard to be funny in character, you're not gonna be in character, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
So it's becoming that paradox, that weird paradox where a funny tone in RPG is almost more like a unwanted consequence. If you trying hard, if you make it the goal, most likely it's gonna look weird. It's gonna
you can do it. You can seize the moment, and like when there's an opportunity arise, you can like jump on it, but you have to let it come, right? You kind of have to be a little more passive, and and that's what I think anyway. If you try to force it too much, but it's the same like you say in real life. You try to force a joke too much in, right? People say, okay, we see you coming, right? It sucks.
And anything in role play in this hobby, I think it's the same. When you try to force it too much, it's not working. Have you ever been? Those are one of my biggest pet peeves in this hobby. Is when you are in a scene or in a situation, and you have the player role playing, and the characters are talking to each other, but they're not role playing. They're talking about what they should do. So it's like,
oh fuck, I hate that.
Man, it's the worst. It's like
turn back comedy.
Yeah, man, it's like I think we should go. Let's go to the tavern, because at the tavern this is where the lead is gonna be. And then the other character is like, oh yes, I think it's a good thing we should do. We should go to the tavern. And then the other, looking at the other one, is like, okay, what we should. Do you know what I mean? It becomes that thing where it's almost like they are talking to the GM for the GM to change the scene.
Yeah, it's in like character. Well, oftentimes they do it not even in character, right? They just like do this planning and just like, oh, what we should do next, and then like, just like. But that's what you see, right?
Of course, out of character, it's the worst. But even when sometimes they do it in character, so that's weird. It's kind of like we want to role play, we understand that's what we like, but we can't make it organic. So it's becoming super like practical.
I think oftentimes also like a lot of people like they don't have a character, right?
Yeah. It's one of those very cheap movies with exposition dialogue poorly written. And so we need to go to the hotel because we're going to have to save the world, and the guy is waiting there for us or something. I am your father. I'm going to tell you what to do. Remember, I am your daughter. It's like, oh, man. And those kind of moments, the hobby is I think is kind of victim of that sometimes.
Like in theater, they call it like the maid and butler dialogue. It's like when there's a theater piece that start, right, and then suddenly like the first character that come on stage is the maid and the butler, and they say, as you know, our master has been gone for 3 weeks, and then like and they do the expo dumb that like that, right? We see that often like in cheap movie, and that can happen in role playing as well, right?
Yeah, definitely. And some games reward goofball.
Yeah.
And that's interesting as well.
Yeah, and interesting. That's a way to put it. That's
interesting. Just let's just not to make too big of a value judgment, but some games, they reward it.
Yep.
And so now there's some kind of players that's all they're gonna do. They're gonna sit and they're gonna try to be funny. Every moment you're gonna be
in your game, to be honest. Like like you're making a role playing game. You're not making a jokey improv game, right? Just like, but you're gonna get it. You make the GM laugh, get an extra experience point, right? Just like,
you get that. So and it's I don't think it's a bad intention from the designers, because at the end of the day, I guess the designers tell themselves, well, if they try to make people laugh, people are going to have a good time, so they're going to come back to the game.
But that's interesting, because if you go look, sometimes you see those designers have actual play that they've posted, and if you go look at those actual play, it informs you a lot about like why they put something in the game, right? Because they don't role play, they don't play the game seriously, they don't,
Yeah.
right?
Man, I did that. I watched a few designer, GM their games, and it was some of the worst
Yeah,
sessions I've seen. And I was it was when you I don't know how you call that. There's a word in English when you have the biggest deception of your life that shatter all your dreams. How do you call that? There's a word for that.
I don't know.
Is it man, is it the RPG Heartbreaker? Is that the word?
RPG Heartbreaker is like when people like write fantasy RPG that they're gonna be the next best thing, and like they're gonna spend 10 years working on it, like I do.
Okay. No, that's not what I mean. But anyway, it's kind of like I'm like, oh man, the designer who designed this game is so good. I'm gonna watch. I have the opportunity to see how they GM their game, and you watch, and you're like, I would never want to sit in one of those sessions, like, ever.
Yeah,
it's a big deception. It's like, oh shit, okay.
And oftentimes, like, also what's one thing that's annoying, oftentimes those designers that showcase their game, they're showcasing their game. So right, just like, so they want to show you all why like they run a session, but it's not a normal session. It's a session that they want to show you why the game is so great, right? Just like, and it's like, well,
yeah, but it
then
doesn't
you kind of
work.
take away from the game. Yeah, exactly. You kind of like
It doesn't work, or everything they wrote in the game they don't do.
Yeah,
that's the worst.
But that's also like people with YouTube D&D advice, right? They gave advice, and then you watch their game and say like, what's the advice that you talk about? Where is it, bro?
Oh man, and that's one thing. That's one thing I remember Shauner was very mad about back in the days. He was like, you see these games, do you see these people on YouTube? Disillusionment. Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, that's a good word. You see all these YouTubers talking about, giving RPG advice, and then when you watch their games, it's and it's true. And I was so frustrated when I first started in this hobby, because I was watching some guys on YouTube. They were saying a lot of stuff, and it was all good it was good on paper. It was good ideas. But when push comes to shove, and you have people around the table, for some reason,
it goes out the window.
And it becomes like the worst session ever. And you're like, okay, so you talk the talk, but you don't walk the walk, because the game, it's too hard. It's very hard to be super tight and have very curated sessions. Like a session that is super curated. Everybody knows the social contract by heart. Everybody agrees on it. Everybody put the same energy in the game. They know the rules and stuff. It's very hard to reach that. It's very rare.
Immersion is kind of a fragile thing, right? It's like sometimes it breaks and you can get back into it, right? If you're used to it, but like you still broke it, right? And it's never gonna be like the same than if you like immerse the whole way through. And so many things, right? Can like those out of character question, those like fuddling around with a rule, or this like random joke that everybody laugh at, and then like you forget where you were, right? You forget what the scene was. The image that you had in your mind vanished, and now you have to reconstruct it.
Yeah.
And now this joke that maybe took 30 seconds to make just cost you like 2 minutes of immersion. So it's a very bad trade-off, right?
Yeah, and so and you have some people who don't imagine much. With the aphasia, you have people who have a very vivid imagination, but it's very cheap. So it like you say, it breaks easy. And some people, it comes back easy. So those people, they don't mind breaking that much because it comes back easy. And some people, like you mentioned, it takes a long time to build. And to be in it, and when you lose it, sometimes it can be hard to get it back. It can be very hard to get it back. Sometimes I remember some sessions where I lost it and never got it back the rest of the session for hours.
Yeah. But just also like once it's broken, right? Then the next guy over is going to be tempted to, because his immersion has been broken as well. So now he's tempted to make a joke because like, oh, now that's the fucking kind of like that's the dynamic we're in now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not like if you try to say, okay, the joke has been made, I'm gonna re-immerse myself, but then like, oh, now somebody else make a joke because that's the dynamic we're in now. There you go, the session is gone.
It's interesting what you mentioned.
It's a very contagious thing.
Yeah, there's a contagion phenomena going on. I think actually, here's an idea. Let me know what you think. What about when you are in a group? Let's use the word immersion. Let's say you have an immersion in the group. What about immersion is a contagious thing? It's not just a solo, subjective, individual thing. What about it's a collective thing that we get in together through time as we speak in character and we interact together with the world? And so as soon as somebody gets out, it's almost when you are in a circle of people and somebody gets his phone. You know what happened when that happens? You know,
everybody get their phone.
Everybody get their phone. It's like okay, now we can scroll because we're not in each other's eyes, right?
Yeah,
I kind of feel it's similar.
No, I think you're right. Like immersion is kind of something that has to, but like I don't think it's contagious in the same way because like it's like everybody has to bring it over their own immersion, and then it blends together, right? But it's not like somebody else's immersion that's gonna make you immerse, right?
No,
it's
like it's your own work, but it's together.
Yeah,
it's together. You can be you always have like in most group you have like a wallflower, like the guy who doesn't speak much, who's kind of like there. So we can understand that he's immersed even though he's not collaborating that much. We can understand that.
Yeah,
but
keeping turn order help a lot with that, right?
What do you say?
Keeping turn order help a lot with the wallflower player.
Yeah,
because his turn is gonna come, right? And then like the GM can just call his name, right, or his character's name. And then if he doesn't have anything to contribute, like that's what we call about the anchoring motion, right? You just say where you are, just say what you're doing at the moment, right? It can be just like, oh, I'm just kicking some sand on the ground, right? Looking at my feet, and that's it. That's your turn. That's fine. But you're still existing in the scene.
You're still existing in the scene, and you're part of that momentum. That's why when you lose that immersive momentum, let's call it that way, that immersive momentum, when you lose that, you can make it lose for everybody. You can break the shatter in pieces, and then everybody gets to work together to bring it back, and it's work, man. It's tiresome sometimes. It's tiresome.
And you said that it was that this happened when in this group with you were playing feed with people that were very experienced, that you were the least experienced.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a difference in the way that people approach it when there's RPG, something that they started as they were lad, versus people that started RPGing when they were adult, basically? Do you think there's a difference there?
Oh man, that's a very good point. Yeah, man. Yes, I think that people who started adults, they get good faster.
Yeah.
In less years because they don't have to break years of conditioning. Let's say you were a kid.
They don't have the hang up of like, oh, that's something I was doing when I was 12-year-old, right? I shouldn't take it too seriously, right?
Exactly. They don't have the habits.
Yes, it might be something you were doing when you're 12-year-old, but it shouldn't be something you're doing as when you were 12-year-old, right? You should have evolved in the hobby, but a lot of people don't, right? Or don't want to.
The thing is that of course, man, that's very true. It's for me, it's the way what I've noticed when playing with different people from different eras and different experience level, because I came in very late. I was an adult, so I jumped in and I wanted to get better from the start. And I was playing with some people who had habits from when they were a kid in their parent basement, and they were playing after school. And so they have all sorts of old habits, old conditionings, old way of doing things, old character archetypes. Because some players, they have three or four character and they bring them in all their games, kind of thing, And so they have their 4 or 5 character archetype, and every time you play with them, you feel like it's the same guy they play, and so they stuck in time. And it's very hard when you grow up to you lose your brain plasticity, so it's very hard to relearn new habit and relearn new way. Some people don't have a problem learning new games, because it's just too hard. You have to read, you have to learn, you have to try, and so they just want to stay in their comfort zone. I do think that it's one of the reasons why goofballing sometimes prevail in certain
And
groups.
to be fair, right? Like there's some games where the goofballing is almost the point, right? Like what
Of
we would
course.
call like a 1D game, right? Just like the game is like more of an excuse to get along with friend, and you're gonna order
There you
some
go.
pizza, drink some beer, make some joke, right?
There you
And we
go.
see that a lot, right? Or
Yeah.
even like games, a lot of the actual play we see online are made in like to entertain the audience, so you have to put joke in there. Like you look at like Critical Role, right? There was always a lot of joke being thrown in that game, right? That
Mhm.
didn't belong in the world of the game, right? Just like
Mhm.
weren't in character or in the world. But they're trying to entertain people, and then people like think that's how the game is supposed to be played.
That's the yeah, of course. Oh yeah, man. That's the era we are in now.
Yep.
That's
And
a
I think it
big
goes,
thing. YouTube is a big thing that happened to this hobby, right? Because
yeah,
back then nobody saw each other. Nobody
nope.
knew what you were doing in your basement. So
Mhm.
every basement has a way of playing that was different. And I call
Yep.
them basement because it's just. But every group were playing together in isolation with their own thing. Nobody really knew. Now you can see, you can watch, you can learn, you get better,
Yeah.
and you can also
Oftentimes you can also learn
bad
badly.
habits.
Right?
Exactly. You can learn bad habits as well, of course, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially when it's like the biggest channel, right? And the creator of the game, right? You look like those game, right? Played by like Adam Coble or or even like Crawford from WotC, right? Like when they run the game, right? Just like it's not very good. Let's just say that.
Not very good. Adam Coble, I've learned so much from this guy. I was watching his videos, his content back in the days. But when I watch him play, I was like, man, it doesn't match the level of understanding that you have, my friend. It's like you have great analysis and stuff, but the level
Yeah.
of the how can I say that? What I mean the level. Okay, it's a value judgment, but it's the idea that you look for role play. You don't want to talk about the rules. In my opinion, you want to
Well,
talk about
that's what we are looking for when we go to a role playing game. Somehow, I know it's crazy, but
you want to be role playing. You want
you
to
want to
be
be role
in
playing. Yeah.
exactly. So you don't want to you don't want to be talking about the rules, and you don't want to have chat about all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And
And
so
you said like this is the era we're in, right? And I think that's touched something because like the goofballing and the clowning around, right? It's in everything now, every media now. Like nothing
oh,
can take itself seriously anymore. Like it's the James Gunn era, right? Just like
it's
you
very
watch like
hard.
those
Yeah.
like I didn't see much of them, but like those Marvel movie, right? Like they're supposed to be action flick, but then or everybody will always gonna have a little like funny quirk to make that is not in character, right? That's also like how they're written, right?
Breaks
Like
the
it's
fourth wall. Breaks the fourth wall.
yeah, it does, but it's also like like they make this little funny comment like, oh, that happened, right? And you see that in video game as well, and like and
Mhm, mhm.
it's just like, oh, which character hasn't said something in a while? This character hasn't said, like, let's give him a funny quirk now, right? Just like, and it doesn't belong to the character, like it doesn't fit the character, but it's gonna have a cheap laugh, so doesn't matter, right? Like
Do you
it
think it's
drives me mad.
cultural?
You can't fucking watch anything anymore. I think it is
It's very
cultural,
hard, man. It's very hard
and
to
I think
watch stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think we have like an epidemic of arrested development.
Arrested Development. It's a TV show, isn't it?
It's a TV show, but the TV show is named after like a psychological phenomena when you were like
Yeah.
you stop growing up mentally, basically. So,
Mhm.
and I think that's what we have, and because like I think when you do like those kind of role playing stuff like that, and at some point you become like a young adult, that's when you kind of become like embarrassed about like those kind of like thing of my childhood. I'm supposed to become an adult now and leave those things behind, right? And at some point when you get wiser and you mature, you realize like, no, doesn't matter. If I like those things as a kid, I can still like them. I'm still allowed to like them anymore. I think like there's what's his name? Man, I forgot, like the author of Narnia and
All right.
um damn, how come I forget his name? I must have a book of him nearby. But yeah, he has a somebody's gonna tell me in chat now. He has a quote, something saying like as I grew older, I abandoned the childish delusion that I have to abandon the thing of my childhood, something like that, right? Just like, and it is what it is, right? How come nobody in chat told me like what the name I'm looking for is? Come on, chat. Wow.
You're like whipping your chat.
Yeah.
But I'm curious what the people. I don't. I'm curious if the people in the chat have noticed what we are talking about, because
Let me look at it.
I'm not talking about. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you can finish your
Okay, so
your
I'm not talking about a light-hearted game that it's supposed to happen. I'm talking a game where the social contract is to be dramatic and serious. The genre is, and everything around it is, and everybody agree upon doing it. And even then, there are these little sneaky humoristic moments that slides in out of nowhere, and it's like, why? You know, I wonder if it's something that other people notice or it's just me.
It seemed to be, because like they have like like Adept Austin was saying, like this thumbnail was so hinge. I loved it. I'm glad. I don't know if anybody else than me loved them, but
Me personally, I like them a lot. I suggest today a skinless clown.
yeah,
But
I want to
Max did not go there.
I went with a different direction. I went with the skinless, like behind the clown, about to
We're about to kind of
garrot him.
yeah.
People use chaotic alignment as an excuse to be
There
retarded.
you go. That's the kind of stuff.
Very true and very annoying. And then like when
Yeah.
that drives me so mad when they say like, oh, that's what my character would do, right? That, oh, my character is a thief, he's chaotic, that's what he would do. Your character would have like lived like to adulthood if that's how you act, right? Just like in that world and stuff like that. Like, stop it. Like, that's not what you like. That's not what like.
Some people utilize classes as well to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's fucking annoying. Out of character, it really is the key to turn off. Absolutely agree. And it's agreed. Although even in character comedy can be quite insulting to the GM world building if the jokes are out of tone.
Of course, yeah. Even when it's in character, like I said, I mean, we are still players. Even though we are in character, we are still players. So we get it, we hear it, we understand it, and it's some people. For me personally, it's enough sometimes to get me out. Maybe it's just a second of getting me out of character or getting me out of immersion, but still, I got out. Even if it's for a few seconds, it's kind of annoying. Because I like to laugh. I'm gonna laugh.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna stop myself not to laugh. I'm gonna start laughing, and
But that's also something like I think you should. Sometimes you can like refrain a laugh, even something like funny happen. Like just like you can like try to keep it in a bit, like not to distract the game. I think that's fair. And then like after the session, keep a time that you can come back to it as, oh man, when you said that, it was so fucking funny. I almost like fucking burst of laughing, but I tried to keep the tone right. And talking about tone as well, right? I think even if the joke is in character, if the tone is supposed to be super tense and horrific or dangerous and stuff like that, and then the character just bursts out a joke that is in character, in my sense, it's still out of character because your character wouldn't have the mind to make this kind of joke in the moment, right? Even though you made it through the mod of your character, it wasn't to the mindset of the character.
Yeah.
So I think that doesn't respect. So I think that become out of character in a sense, right?
And sometimes it's the GM. It could be the GM as well, who will name a city or it will name an NPC a certain way, just through the name or through the accents or the behavior, and you're like, oh man, this. Or he created, and then the GM creates an NPC or something, and it's kind of like a character from a movie you saw. Or from a video game you play.
Yep.
And you're like, oh man, you kind of you took the skin and you put it on that NPC and you just redoing. I don't know what's that Star Wars first episode goofball character.
Jar Jar Binks.
Jar Binks. You can. I saw that guy in so many games.
You see that's an example of a character. You watch the movie and it's like it takes you out of the movie all the time.
Oh,
right?
That's one of the biggest criticisms I think I've heard about that movie, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nobody likes that guy. He was just annoying all around.
And they say like, oh, it's but it was a character like the movie were made for little kid. It's a character that they make the little kid laugh and they keep watching because the little kid won't care about the other stuff in the movie, like midichlorian and the
political.
trade war politics, right? Just like
Yeah.
okay, it's kind of like there's kind of a tonal clash there with this movie, right? What it's trying to do, but like maybe that's an example. Like when I was talking about arrested development, I think like a lot of people like they're in Quebec, we have this term like adolescent. you ever, which like it's a portmanteau word of like teenager and adult, right? Which you can't really transfer in English. But there are those people that
it's like a teen adult. Teen adult.
People are teenager until 35 nowadays, right? That's how it is. Like
that's very true, man. That's very interesting. That's cultural.
And I think it's cultural, and I think that's why like we see like all those media like always being like always having like every character is Jar Jar Binks, right? Basically, like maybe not to the same extent, but like everybody's gonna have their Jar Jar Binks moment in a movie. Like, what can I get immersed in that movie? Oh no, we need to make you laugh now because you're fucking 9-year-old or 10 or 11, right? Just
it's very hard to. I'm when you're looking for something serious as a media, let's say a TV show, like a series or a movie, those are still hard to find. I mean, good quality ones are still hard to find. They're always going to have a little bit of some clever thing or just a tone shift a little bit here and there. I watched recently, it's a good example. I watched it recently on Netflix, Three Body Problem. It's a Chinese thing. You haven't seen it?
No.
It's a Chinese series of books. It's very cool. It's very interesting. It's an alien invasion, but it's some nothing like anything we've seen before. And it's very interesting, the tone in this one, because there is a little moment where you're like, it's gonna become cringy and funny, weird, and I'm gonna get out of it because it's a very tense theme. It's a very tense theme. And then they bring it back. So it's like I said in my episodes, it's like the Woody Allen elastic analogy. So the tone is very serious because they talk about quantum physics and alien invasion, and it's very serious, and communism in China and stuff like that. And then eventually, like, it becomes almost funny, and you're like, oh, you're gonna lose me, and they come back, and they go back to the funny, but they don't. And they never lose that tone. It's very interesting. They keep it on the verge of being comedic or completely dramatic. And I was about to leave, to shut the thing off many times because it was about becoming goofballing, but they never did.
You never stepped. Yeah, because that's the thing too, right?
Man, I close the TV.
Fine line.
Sometimes
it's a fine line.
It's a fine line. It's a very fine line.
But yeah, I think it's important. Like you need to fucking get over this kind of like turning into adulthood, right? Embarrassment of like leaving the child. Like just you want to still enjoy it. Just learn to enjoy it as an adult, which isn't gonna be the same way as you used to. But don't be embarrassed by it, and then you won't feel like joke to make. You won't feel the need to make a joke every like 5 minutes, right? And break the tension and say, oh, isn't that silly what we're doing right now, guys? Aren't we like, we're just, and then you say like, well, man, can you take it seriously? And they get mad, like, oh, we're just playing a game, guys. Just like, what is it? Well,
that's a conundrum, isn't it? It's like, it's a weird conundrum in this hobby. Some of them, because I managed to have a few sessions that were very serious all the time, and I managed a campaign, but it was solo. So I was in the Call of Cthulhu solo thing, and I managed to stay serious all the time. Lasted for 7 sessions. It was one of the best RPG experience I had. But it's not. But it was a lot of fun. But it was not funny. I don't know if you know what the distinction. It's a paradox. It's like
fun doesn't have to be equal funny. You can have like stuff that are fun, like And okay, let me make a sport analogy, right?
Go ahead.
Imagine you play a sport. Pick one, like I don't know what, like you play
hockey.
Hockey, okay, why not? You start playing hockey when you're a kid. You can keep playing hockey when you're an adult, and you don't have to feel embarrassed about it. If you still play like you were when you were 6, then maybe you should look for something else to do. You can, like, that's a hobby you have that you can pursue in adulthood. And why would role play be different, right? Like, why would you feel embarrassed about role playing, right? You start doing that when you're a kid, and now if you imagine if you go play hockey, and then there's this guy that is always like goofing around and not like playing the game, and then you get mad at him, and he get mad at you. Oh, we're just playing a game. We're just having fun. We're just to have fun. Like, why you don't see that in those in other hobby, right? You don't like. Why can people like take this hobby of role playing seriously, like they would do if it was a sport or playing music, right? Imagine like if you play in a band. Maybe you start playing when you're young, and now you're adult and you're still playing music. There's nothing to be embarrassed about that, right?
There are some people, if you go, let's say you left behind the mainstream traditional game, Pathfinders and Shadowrun and all that. That when you open the book,
Yeah.
the illustration scream, goofballing, and you go into the more indie, independent publisher, small little games that do one thing very precisely, no GM, story based kind of thing. You will see more dramatic experience proposed, and you will have older adults playing it, and and these games are not meant for long campaigns. Sometimes they're meant for one shot, or they made for like 2 or 3 sessions, and they are made to be difficult psychologically. For example, I'm thinking Dread, or I'm thinking what's the name? Ah man, I don't have my memory is failing me. But some of these games where it's very niche, and it does.
Dread is very party game though. Dread is like
Yeah,
Dread is kind of like
but
it's a trick to get you tense without roleplay.
I'm not sure if I agree, because I don't. Have you created a character in Dread? It's kind of like a psychological. Okay, in Dread, creating a character is kind of like a psychological questionnaire.
Okay.
So it asks you like 10 or 12 questions, and they are questions that are meant to get into the psyche of the character, so the GM can trigger those elements. So it's a very psychological game. It looks like a gimmick,
Yeah. Because that's the point, right? Like when I'm thinking about the core mechanic with this Jenga tower, right? And now you're in a tense moment, and if you have to pull the block and you feel tense because the tower might fall, I feel like it's kind of like a trick to force you into emotional alignment with your character, which is what I want in roleplay, right? But it's doing it like it's a trick, right? It's like it's like when you play like sometimes those video game, or when you watch those movie, and it's just like the soundtrack that makes you uncomfortable because of dissonance like that, and it's like
or jump scares.
Yeah, like exactly, like they're hijacking your.
You're right. You're right that the tower does that. But
and I feel like when a tower fall, isn't that like now everybody laugh and oh no, everybody react, and it's like immersion breaking?
You're right. You're right on that note. But I mean, in the spirit of the game, like the character creation, the questionnaire, the thing that the GM is supposed to do as well, is all toward that experience. But you're right that as soon as the tension is broken, you have to start all over again.
Because I never played it, but like from the outside, like I find like it's interesting as like I'm glad this game exists, because it's an interesting like it's different, and like somebody tries something, and like I said, like I'm in favor of this emotional alignment, and why not? Like I like when people experiment with stuff and do new stuff, even though if it's not to my liking, right?
There are some nasty games out there. There is a game. What's the name? I can't remember the name. The cover of the game looks a little bit like your tear off your skin. Thumbnail. I will look for it. I think it has the word fear in it. Maybe the chat knows it. It's an indie game.
Is it Cult?
What?
Is it Cult?
No. Cult is a well-known one though. But the one is a long name. It's a long name of the game. It's like it looked like Under Your Skin. It's a super
Oh yeah.
long name. I'm gonna find it, but the game is very short, very small. It's independent, and it's all about nasty stuff. It's about trauma. It's about
Yep.
So you play that, and it's gonna be uncomfortable.
You have to
That's
do
all.
those
That's all.
in short session, one shot. Those are not for the campaign.
Exactly. And I think your point there is one that I will go back home with after that conversation is that
Yep.
if you want to reach those experience, don't aim
Yep.
for long. Don't
No,
aim
and
for
if
long.
you want to aim for long, you need to have like a setting or a tone that allows a setting that allows for variation of tone, where you can have like those, you can break this tension like and remain in character, remain immersed. Because like you cannot like be tense like all the time, like on your teeth, like forever, right? It's like you're going fucking insane.
Yeah, of course. And also one thing, I don't know if people in the chat know what I
I'm
mean,
about
but
to go back there.
you have some people who do anxiety before game, pre-game anxiety, pre-session anxiety. So before the game, they kind of get not like super anxiety, but they become like a little bit excited, a little bit tense, and it's just and me, I get those when I know that those sessions gonna be suffering. Draining session that you have is super hard and it's work
Yeah.
because you want to get that experience, so you're gonna have to work for it. And sometimes it's like, okay, I'm sitting, I'm having my stuff, I'm ready. It's just, and after I have to go to bed, I can't do anything. I'm just too tired, or I have headaches sometimes because it's just too much energy, too much attention and focus. So those genre that are not lighthearted, they sometimes they're just too much for some people. Me, I cannot stand them for too long.
Yeah, it's not my favorite either. It's like my
No, me
favorite type
neither.
of
Me neither.
genre.
I like a little bit lighthearted as well.
Yeah. And I like, and like, it's funny because like the game I'm writing, like a Bastard Sword, is really, it's about the
There's
archetype.
merrymaking. You have to do merrymaking in the game.
You have to do merrymaking as part of the mechanic of the game, exactly, to regain your spirit, because the game is all about like the hardship of adventuring, right? Like you go out there, you're gonna get drained, you're gonna get tired, you're gonna get injured, and at some point you will need to take some break. You'll need to sleep in a good bed. You'll need to like have a good feast with friend. You need to play like some music and dance and stuff like that to regain some spirit, because otherwise you're not gonna be able to push through, right?
Do you know that there's a merrymaking mechanic in Torchbearer?
Yeah, Torchbearer it's part of my inspiration in that game as well.
Oh,
Like
okay.
Torchbearer
Okay.
and
I didn't know you knew it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. I'm playing Torchbearer nowadays, and I read that mechanic. I'm like, oh, it makes me think of Bastard Sword. I didn't know if you knew it.
Torchbearer, I think, like, has a lot of interesting stuff in it.
Oh
I
yeah,
think it's
lots of interesting stuff. Not a lot of role play. It's kind of
no,
impossible to role play in it, but
but I
it's
think they
lots
also
of
solved some issue that were into Burning Wheel. Like they streamline a bit like the difference between the social fight and the physical fight. And I really love the condition mechanic that they have, which I also have a condition in my game. That's also something I kind of lifted, but yeah. So those, like, if you want to have like those arch tone, I think you have to have like, it cannot be like always balls to the wall arch, right?
Oh no, man, no,
No.
it's too hard. It's too hard.
Full Metal Slate was saying keeping everything grounded in the world, and also LOL, and yeah, like that's always important.
Yeah.
Bad jokes are often a crutch for player not ready, not willing to roleplay. Yeah, roleplay require you to act with effort and without shame. Yeah, I don't know if I would say with effort, without shame for sure, but I think at some point, if you learn to let go and slip into your character mind, it can come naturally.
At some point, yeah. At some point, it's just like second nature.
Yeah,
It might take a few sessions. Sometimes it takes a few sessions just to get into the groove of the character.
Yeah, and even a session oftentimes is going to take me like about 20 minutes or so, right? That's also a reason why like I'm not a big fan of the cliffhanger, because like, oh, you're gonna end the session on a super tense moment. where I would want to react now when I'm in my character the most, right? And when my reaction would be natural for the character. And now we're gonna get that, and now I have like a whole week to think about it. Where even if I'm trying not to, now I'm gonna make comment with plan and idea and stuff like that. So now it's not gonna be like an authentic reaction, right? And now we're gonna do that at the beginning of the session when I might not be warmed up, right?
Yeah.
In my character.
And you're
So
in
like,
the middle of the action, and you need to
yeah,
be into that character
yeah.
space.
So now like we have like this big important thing that should be very meaningful for the character that I'm resolving at the least in
Least
character that I can
prepared,
be.
least warmed up. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting point, actually,
Yeah.
because a lot of people, GM mostly, tend to like those cliffhangers.
Because
Some players like them as well.
that's the thing that they bring from like, oh, TV show have
TV
cliffhanger, so we
shows
should
and
have
video
them as
games.
well. It's different
Yeah.
medium, so
Oh yeah.
what works in one doesn't necessarily work in the other.
Oh man, I don't want to get out of topic, but one thing that I hate with this hobby is the wide variety of philosophy about the way they write
Yeah.
the games,
Yeah.
the content of the games.
Yeah.
You can open a book, and you will have like this paragraph in it that goes like this: "This is your game. Do whatever you want with it. Change the rules. Flip the rules. If you don't like the rules, don't use it." Stuff like that. You're gonna have games that there's some games that's written in it where you open the book, and what's written is something like oh man, what we're just saying right before that
About the writing advice and people like trying to make them like movies or TV series.
Exactly. So you open the book and they say role playing game is just like a TV show.
Yeah.
Make it like your favorite TV show.
I hate
and
like,
you're like
one I fucking hate. Like I was reading like a Codex
Yeah.
Prime, right, which is a trash fucking game. Anyway, Codex Prime, like they call I think the GM like director, and
oh yeah.
when you read and like there's scene, and then you start seeing action, and then you can make a cut, and they use all this cinema language, and basically what they're saying is like you're not trying, and it's a generic kind of system, but you're not trying to play the role of heroes. You're pretending to make a TV show about those heroes, right? It's like the way it's depicted. Like you're not in the fantasy that, oh, we're gonna be like those guys that go into the dungeon and whatever. No, you're pretending the fantasy that, oh, what if we were like those characters in a TV show that go into the dungeon, right? It's like it's so fucking cringy. It's like
it's very there is different way to do it. Like I have a game here. It's called Operators. It's I don't know if you know it. It's a game about war and spy ops and stuff like that. And the game is just like you say. You're a director, scenes and cuts and action scenes. It's all the lingo of movie making. That started with
you can zoom in. You can
zoom in and zoom out and all that.
Like,
they use all the same lingo.
Yeah.
And you have.
I feel like that's almost the same problem. Like people like feeling cringe about like role playing. Like they feel like if making movies is not cringe. So if we bring that element to it, then it lessens. But it doesn't.
Some people, I mean,
worse.
I think it's what it come back to philosophies. Some designers out there, that's their philosophy. That's the way they see the hobby. They've been playing it that way. For them, they recreate their movies, they recreate their TV shows or video games. You have a World of Darkness was about that storyteller chapters. It was chapters and what's the other word they use? I don't remember, but it's like the game is supposed to be divided into sections, and it's so you create a story
Books.
and you have probably chapters and books and stuff. The GM is a storyteller, so it's kind of like a writer. So the GM is becoming a writer kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the players are the protagonists.
I think that's I think
it's wrong, man.
It's missing the point of the medium, right?
Yeah, missing the point of the medium.
Yeah.
There is,
but also like this comment, I wanted to address the last part. Like many people think putting effort is cringe, unfortunately, and I think that's very true, especially in that hobby. I don't know why. Like we don't see that in other hobbies, right? Like I'm something people might not. I'm really into kayaking, right? I go kayaking a lot, and I in the summer, obviously, and I like to go upriver, right? Instead of like just going up the river and like letting the river carry me down. I like the challenge, right? I like fighting against nature, basically. But I have friends that like to go kayaking sometime, but the way they want to do it, they're gonna park some car up the river and some car down the river, and just gonna let the river carry themselves, and they're gonna drink some beer. And sometimes I'm gonna go with them doing that. I cannot like convince them to come and go kayaking with me because like I say, why you fucking do that? That sucks. You just want to be on the water and enjoy the sun. I said, no man, I want to fucking fight the river. I want to see how far I can go before I can go anymore, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, but in many, but like they're not people that pretend to be into kayaking, right? They're just something like sometimes they like to do once or twice a year. But in role-playing game, people are gonna fucking meet every fucking weekend or whatever, right? But they don't want to put any effort in it.
3 times a week.
Yeah,
it's insane, man. Insane.
yeah, and it's like, they invest as much in this hobby sometimes as if they were sitting in front of Netflix.
What do you mean?
Well, like it's a very
okay. So they approach
TV.
it as a TV show. So it's like
it's very passive, right?
They're very passive.
If they're not a GM, right? They're just gonna like the GM might put a little more work in them because like they need to carry the whole thing on their shoulder. But the player, they're gonna meet like every week, like for fucking 30 years, and just go there, sit there, and like wait for thing to happen. Once in a while, roll some dice or human dice roller, like Sean call them.
That's a culture. That's a culture, and these groups exist because they have a GM that likes it to do all the work, and so these players are there, super passive. The GM writes the script, and it's kind of like a railroad, and they trust their friends to tell them a good story, and not to kill their character.
But imagine if you like imagine if you like you go in, you're in a soccer group with some people and you go play the game or you go to practice, but you never go faster than a brisk walk, right? Just like, and you never like, if the ball is like a few feet away, it's too far, no, I won't get it, right? You'd be fucking kicked out. Nobody would do that, right? It's like, it's crazy.
It's different ways, different approach. This hobby is difficult, man, because it's varied. There's so many different approaches and games, and it becomes very relativistic. Whenever you want to talk about it, it's very hard to be very talk it absolute, because there's so many different games, different group, different ways, different approaches, so it becomes very hard to talk about it at the same time in a theoretical matter, in a conceptual matter, because you end up always having one perspective on it. Do you know what I mean? So it's very hard. That's why whenever I'm hearing these conversations or these debates, sometimes very serious about the hobby, I'm like, okay, so but it's true, but for these kind of games, you have these games there that doesn't work that way, or you have so it's hard, man.
And I guess
hard.
like
it's
somebody
kind of like an infinite conversation.
Somebody could criticize us of like not doing like those optimal build and shit like that. Oh, do you even take the game seriously? Your character is not optimally built, right? You cannot do the most damage per round. Like, I say, yeah, but
I don't care. I just want to be.
I don't care about that, right? I care about the role play element, which on this role playing game.
But you see that mentality of optimization. When I first played the hobby, I played Pathfinder, and I noticed that right away. I'm like, okay, so there's build.
Yep.
Okay, if I don't do the best build, I'm just not gonna be good at that game. So I kind of have to do the best build. But I like this weapon. It has less. It's less powerful, but it's nicer. I want to do that. I want to use that. Yeah, but if I use that, I'm not gonna be having fun in combat.
Yeah,
so
it's kind of like an element that's in, right?
Yeah, and I was very frustrated as a.
I think like role-playing game, tabletop role-playing game are not the best medium for that kind of like fix, right? You can go play video game that's gonna do that better, right? You can play
I think so. I think so. Or you have to do it in the social contract. So at one point, I was trying these things. I was like, okay, let's play Pathfinder. Discussing tone, specifically how much darkness everyone is going for, is super important. Of course. Oh yeah, definitely.
But I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry. Keep saying what you're trying to go Pathfinder.
Okay, so so I was at one point I was like, okay, so let's take Pathfinder and utilize it for something that it's not made for, role play. So I took the I took the game and I built a social contract, and I'm like, okay, so everybody here, don't make the most powerful character, the most optimized purple, make the one you want, and we're gonna be playing the game to role play stuff, not to fight and not to level up. See how it goes, and you end up not utilizing most of the game, right? So you end up not very doing it at this point. So it becomes okay. I'd rather do something else. So these games are made for something, and you have to use them for what they are made for.
But often, like I feel like the rules will get in the way, right? Sometimes, like just because they're a bit clunky and stuff like that.
They get in the way. As soon as you fight, because you have to talk about spaces and walking around. Like I'm flanking and all that jazz. Talking about video game and games that are made for not video game but TV shows and games that are made for movies and with the lingo and stuff like that.
Yeah,
people who want to play like a TV show and stuff. There is a good way to do it though. And I think it's like Mouse Guard, what they did, what Luke Crane did with Mouse Guard.
Oh, this one I never looked at.
Oh, okay. So what he did is like, okay, so the game doesn't utilize anything special. It says when you read it, it says you try to play the game like the graphic novels.
Mm-hmm.
So
which I read actually. Some of them.
So you read? Okay, you read. So you read Moscow. So okay, so the approach is just you play character from just like character that could have been in the novel, and you play the same kind of story structure, but it's not part of the design. It's just like a suggestion. Mm-hmm. So if you're a fan of the Mouse Guard series, and you take the game, well, you have a set of rules to recreate your own graphic novel kind of thing, but they don't utilize the lingo of graphic novels. Do you know what I mean? So it's not reinforcing it that way. It's just like an aesthetic thing. So I do think that doesn't.
I find like playing Mouse.
Alien.
That's a bit of a tangent, but I find like playing Mouse. It's it's very interesting concept for role playing.
Talking about goofballing. Now you're gonna have some serious fun.
Well, yeah, but I think it's because you can be set in the real world, right?
Mm-hmm. And you're small.
You don't have to add any fantastical element except that your mouse that are like kind of like sentient, sapient, and like use weapons, shit like that. Yeah. But everybody can be on the same page that animals can use weapons like that, mouse at least. Mm-hmm. But then you can also have those huge monster.
Oh yeah, and everything is huge. A leaf from a tree is huge.
Or like a snake, right? We need dragon when you're a mouse and you have like huge snake and
huge snakes and a cat, just a cat. Yep. And so it's kind of weird. It's these movie from the 80s where I think there was a father in his attic who had a huge laser gun and he became small and he ended up in the backyard.
Yeah, with Moranis.
With Moranis.
Yeah, Shrunk the Kid, something like that.
Yeah. I Shrunk the Kids. There you go. So I think Mouse Guard, that's the appeal. It's the idea that you can be very small and you have to the scale. It's a scaling thing.
Yeah,
changing the scale.
I think it's I think it's an interesting premise for role play. I find, like I think you could probably role play that pretty seriously.
Oh yeah, you can be very Mouse Guard is a serious series. You read it, so you're serious. But and coming back to the topic about clowning and being a goofball around the table and stuff like that. I'd say I think there's an aspect that is about nervousness.
Yep.
As well. So let's say you are with a bunch of strangers you don't know. and you becoming nervous, and your mechanism when you are nervous is laugh, because some people they laugh even though when it's not funny. Have you noticed that? So it's just like a nervous laugh, or and you will and so you don't know exactly how to react to a certain thing, or let's say for example there's a theme that comes into play and cut you off guard, and your reaction is to start laughing at the character, stuff like that, or you make a mistake or you roll poorly.
Those roll, like that's a big one as well, right? Like when you're in a Sweeney game, like I remember at some point, like I was playing like a D20 game, right? And you play a character that's supposed to be competent at something, and I rolled like 3-1 in a row, right? Critical fail, and like you try, and at some point, like okay, the first one you're just like, oh no, and then like you describe what happened, and like you fail miserably and stuff like that, right? And like it happened again, like shortly right after, right? And then like, oh okay, and then like the third time, like it's like now it breaks the suspension of disbelief, right? Well, my guy is supposed to be somewhat competent at this thing. Like now, like I'm just
now it's just you're right.
Just like a Penny Hill kind of clip, right? Just like our Mr. Bean kind of shit, right?
Mr. Bean. you see, just make me laugh. Of course, and sometimes it's just about the results of the dice. That's true.
Yeah.
You're rolling the dice, and you try to be serious. You're trying to do something, but you keep on failing.
Yep.
Or the opposite. You're trying to have some tension, but you're succeeding all the time.
Yep.
And now you're just running through everything, and you're trying to make serious description, but you're rolling too good.
That's why also like like when we started the Horizon campaign, right? It's a sci-fi campaign, and we talked about we discussed what system we were going to use, and we played a lot of Traveler in the past, and it's a system I like, and it's a system that works. But I was against playing with Traveler in that campaign, because for that campaign I wanted something that, like, Traveler is very predictable, right? Because of the bell curve and the dice and stuff like that, and that's great if you want to have a serious tone. But this campaign wasn't meant to be like as serious, right? At first, now it's becoming more serious because of the event that happened. But at first, right, there was supposed to be a bit of levity in the game, so I wanted something that could be a little more swingy, could feel a little more heroic. So that's why I went with Easy D6, right? It fit, but like that's something to consider as well when you discuss the tone of the game. The system should fit the tone, right? If you try to make a horror game with a D20 that's very swingy and stuff like that, it's not gonna be the same. It's not gonna be the same feeling. It's probably not the right tool for the job, and then that can also like break your. It is what it is, right? And I mean, like if you when you do the critical success, right, and then like people want to overdo it in the description, and now it become like this goofy thing again, right? And yeah, it's become a problem, and it can come from both the player and the GM, like you said as well, right? Just like,
there's another thing as sometimes about genre. So I was thinking about that earlier in the conversation. Steve Jackson, who did the Lord of the Ring and the Hobbit.
Oh yeah, okay, this Steve Jackson, not the GURPS guy.
No, not the GURPS guy. He is it Steve or Peter Jackson? It's Steve Jackson. I don't know. Anyway, we know what I mean. So, Lord of the Ring.
It's Peter Jackson.
I think it's Peter Jackson. Yeah.
It's Peter Jackson. Steve Jackson is the GURPS guy, and GURPS also guy.
Illuminati.
There's another because there's two Steve Jackson. The other one is the guy that did the Fighting Fantasy book.
Yeah. So anyway, Peter Jackson, the Lord of the Ring. Lord of the Ring is very interesting. I haven't read the book, so I mean I was very young, so I don't remember at all the book. I remember there's songs for pages, but I don't remember the tone. And I read it in French, so I need to go back and read it in English.
Which is quite different.
I'm pretty sure. So I don't know if it's a funny tone, but it seems to me like it's pretty damn serious, Lord of the Ring. So is it? But the movie is like The Hobbit is goofy, in my opinion, the movie The Hobbit is
Yep.
goofy. I don't know if the book is meant
The
that
book is
way.
much more lighthearted than the Lord of the Ring.
Yeah, much more
The
lighthearted.
Hobbit.
Okay. So I think there's
And
a reason
I
that.
prefer the Hobbit book better than the Lord of the Ring.
Okay.
But yeah,
So
that's my
my but I think that it might in terms of the genre, fantasy genre, medieval fantasy genre, I think it might have set the tone for a generation of people playing.
I think like this thing I was talking about, like when everything has to be funny and have jokes in it and stuff like that, and nothing can take itself seriously and be sincere, right? I think that started kind of like around that era when the Lord of the Ring movie were put out, and I know like that's gonna be like a blasphemous for a lot, but like I'm not a fan of the Lord of the Ring movie. I saw the first one in the theater. I wasn't too impressed. Something annoyed me. The second one, I waited until like it came in DVD, or maybe it was that DVD back then, and to see it. And the third one, I saw for the first time during COVID.
Wow.
so,
Wow.
so that's how unimpressed I was, right?
Oh, okay, man. Shit. And we're the
Yeah,
same age, so
yeah.
damn. Okay,
Because like
but
thing
but
like
but I mean,
like in
because
the
for
in the
me,
second one, like when Legolas like surfed down on orcs on the shield, right? Those kind of things. Those kind of things that made me fucking ground. Like all
it's
those
it's
little
not in the
surf,
book, isn't it?
Gimli
It's
being
not. Those are
no,
those things
no,
are no.
no. Gimli being like the goofball character, right? Always like being the butt of a joke and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
also fucking annoyed me. And
Mm-hmm.
I also like the Battle of Elm that fucking lasts forever. And say like, yeah, we
So
get
so
it.
I
It's an epic
guess
battle.
so you kind of answer my question. So I guess that the books are not
No,
lighthearted. They're not funny.
no,
They're serious.
no. The book take themselves seriously, right?
Okay. Okay.
As they should.
Yeah.
But and even
Okay.
if you look at if you read the books like Game of Thrones, right? The first few books take themselves very seriously, but at some point, like and that also like there's a big gap between the written. Like at some point, there's like this part, like this chapter with Daenerys, like having diarrhea, and the whole chapter is basically about that. And say like, and I get it, right? It's like something that happened in life, but you don't have to describe me every little thing. Like I've been there. I know how it's like, right? Just like I don't need to read about it in the book, right? That's not
You
something like
see, you
I don't.
see. Here's you put diarrhea images in my head,
Yeah,
and I started to laugh.
yeah,
It's a very good example. It just happened there. You
yeah.
express a frustration about something that has it's not funny at all. There's nothing funny about a bad diarrhea. There's
No,
there's nothing funny about that. And I started to laugh because
but
I had
it's
images.
funny, like
I remembered stuff.
it's because like it's the
That
kind of
was
thing that
uncomfortable.
we all experience. It's uncomfortable, it's unpleasant, and we don't really talk about it because it's also like it's not pleasant. It's not image that we want to have in our head, right? When you
Exactly.
start talking about it, something that you're not supposed to, right? It's something it breaks like a social taboo, so it kind
Mhm,
of make it funny, right? It's like a lot of humor is about like those bending transgression, right? Something that you do something you're not supposed to, so you're being transgressive, but you're not really harming anybody, so that's
mhm,
been in, right? A lot of humor is based on that,
mhm, mhm.
and and
It
and
happens
when you
all. It happens a lot in
yeah
RPG.
yeah and yes and when you read a book like Game of Thrones, right, you're supposed to be in this epic thing about like this big war, and then like this whole chapter about that, and you feel like it doesn't really belong. So it does feel kind of like transgressive in a way, but like for me, it break the flow, right? Just like anyway,
And you kind of wonder why did he wrote that?
yeah,
What did he had in mind for his
like
character at this point? Like, was he
what
having a bad diarrhea? And he said, you
how
know
does it
what? I'm gonna bleed in through Daenerys.
like how does it serve the story? How does it serve like, and you can say like, oh, humanize the character. Like there's other way to do that, and also like we know she's human, or if you need to humanize it with diarrhea, you probably wrote her badly, which you did, but you're trying to like you put her too much on a pedestal, and now you need to bring her down a notch so people remind her that she's just a regular girl, right? Just like she goes through those things that we all goes through as well, right? Just like, yeah, I could assume that if you wrote her like a normal person, but yeah, in RPG you could have the same thing, right? Just like if you start like and it doesn't belong.
Mm.
Canticle of Restlessness was saying comedy is difficult, pretty strong weapon against immersion if it's out of character, not appreciated much if delivered through. Not appreciated much if delivered through and in character.
Comedy is difficult, pretty strong weapon against immersion. Yeah, of course. If
If it's
it's
out of
out of
character,
character,
yeah.
not appreciated much if it delivered through and in character. It's
Well, like again, like that's I say, like if it's like, because in character doesn't, like, for me, it doesn't just mean like from the mouth of the character. You need to come from the mindset of the character, right?
yeah, like we discussed. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's just bleeding.
Yeah. That comedy is brutal, like the turn-back comedy that was from a little while ago. Though it's worse than out of character to pretend you are in character to organize the other player in order to inorganically. That's something like fucking drive me mad, right? You see like people like they're in combat, and then it's one guy to take his turn, or sometimes one girl to take her turn, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then like everybody else want to coach her and tell her what to do. And even if they try to do it, and it's annoying when they do it out of character, but sometimes they try to do it in character and say like, man, aren't you fighting this fucking ogre that's trying to rip your, like, you have time to just like turn around, look what she's doing, and yell at her like advice for like 15 fucking minutes, right? Just like, so you try, I guess I get it that you try to do it in the voice of your character, but it's still out of character because you're not in the moment, right? You're not, like, that's not what your character lived through at the moment. You get what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's pretty much like we discussed earlier about when they trying to plan through
Yeah.
their character instead of
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
The same thing.
so what is the chat saying?
That's what I'm going through now. Like, I'm trying to catch up a bit. It's like the skipping of because I don't want to ignore the chat too much, right? They come here and they
Of course,
share
of
their
course.
thought. It's like skipping all of in-character activity in order to follow a prescribed format railroad. Yeah. Can't even talk when meeting in a tavern, go to immediately become friend and proceed to the next.
There you
That's
go.
also like,
There you go. Yeah.
that's also something like people like feel like they're obliged to, oh, we need to be friend, right? Well, no, you maybe kind of need to work together, but like maybe you can do it like in a reticent manner and stuff like that. It can be more interesting.
It's one of
But
those things. That's one of those things, right? In this hobby where it's artificial,
yeah,
and there's a buy-in.
yeah,
Otherwise, it's not going to work unless you have a big first session where it's one scene, and if we don't get along, we don't get along, and we make another character kind of thing. I don't know. But,
yeah. Well, there's nothing wrong also like to start with you. Okay, you already know each other, guy. You already like a group that work together. That's fine. That can bypass that, or start where you have a reason to work together already if you don't like each other, right? But
mm-hmm.
that's also some stuff that can be discussed in session and probably should be discussed in session 0.
Of course.
That's what like I start that because it was an important question to trout nemesis. Are you a trout with a nemesis or a nemesis for a trout? I thought it was an important question. And trout nemesis say, I'm a bear in fish clothing. So there you go. Now we have some lore answer about trout nemesis. So I guess that'd be like a nemesis for trout, right? So since bear eat trout. Full Metal Slate say it's very rare finding a group on the same page wanting to achieve the same level of engagement at the table. That's one thing that's great with online
gaming.
Table, yeah. You can like you have bigger pool of player and you can try to shop around a bit more for yeah.
I'm pretty sure that the best or the most serious or higher grade level of experience in this hobby has been from people who found themselves online through they had the same idea, the same approach, the same willingness to try these things, because otherwise in person it's like you said, it's very rare. Some of these people, they play. Do you have a channel? Yes, on YouTube, but
Yeah.
I'm on Spotify now.
Yeah, and I put the link for the Spotify in the description below, under the AI description.
Yeah, because I don't, the quality is just too high now on YouTube, and I'm not in the race. So I'd rather just have my voice on Spotify. Same kind of content though. Same kind of
Yeah.
same land. Same kind of questions. Same kind of stuff. More mature, less
Oh yeah, is it?
more experienced.
Yeah. We're just here to talk anyway.
Yeah, but it's just yeah. Of course, we just have to talk, and we all come from a place of frustration somehow. It's just about it's just stuff that we want to talk about. The stuff that kind of frustrates us, trying to get better.
Yeah. So like throughout the message thing, it's all a perversion. The lie they tell themselves, and other other is that role play is the game, but every effort at the table is to avoid doing role play. Yeah.
This is weird, man. This is the stuff I mentioned in my so far so good episode talking about Shauner. That's the stuff that he was so frustrated about, and I was frustrated about. It's like, hey, it's supposed to be role play, and we don't. I'm like, wow, how is that? What am I getting wrong? You know, I started with Shadowrun and Pathfinder, and these games are just so heavy on mechanics that when I first started to play, we were playing and we were talking about the rules all the time, and I was like, how come? Why is it called a role playing game? At one point, I thought that role playing game, the role part was that you create an archetype and you are part. It's your role,
Like
you create an archetype.
Somebody said that in the comment. Like I made this short video called like all to role play, where I go to the basic, and somebody like commented on it like, oh, you play a role, you don't play another person, right? And it's like, well, like clearly like you mean like, oh, you play a role like, oh, you're a human fighter, like
You're the thief,
you're the fighter.
you're the tank.
That's your role exactly. And I say, and I have to reply like, no, like role playing means something, right? It means like embodying the character of somebody else, right? The characteristic of somebody else. The term exists before role playing game. So if you put that on role playing game, if you make game about it, right, it should be about that.
In the OSR world, though, they're not all clear about that. Some old grognard from way back still have that mentality of you are the thief, you are the fighter, you are the cleric. It's a role.
Oh, we didn't give a name to our character until it's the third level, right? So then you don't have a character. If he doesn't have a name, right? Doesn't have a personality, doesn't have like no. And they all like just like they're just basically pound for this like kind of like lame ass board game that they're playing.
It's another style. It's another approach. But yeah.
Bring your own
immersion. A good motto.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
I think it's what it is, right? It's like you're gonna get from this hobby what you put in, right?
Oh yes. Oh, of course. I've been playing Tilted the same exact way for 40 years.
Yeah, that's what people say.
Of course, that's what people say. Yeah, in quotation marks.
In quotation mark. Yeah. Afonso was saying, to be honest, I haven't done my friend in so long. I'm tempted to run a 1D 2D game just to hang out, and I think you should do it. I think keeping bound with like keeping social like your social group and stuff like that is worthwhile, and I think role playing games can serve that function, right? And just having in that case, I wouldn't be more tempted by a 1D game than a 2D game, because like if we're just gonna use the game as an excuse to do social, let's goof around, right? Let's have fun. Let's just be jokey. If you want me to take the game seriously and delve into mechanic and shit like that, like then I'm gonna get bored. I'm gonna be immersed in the role play that I like, and I'm gonna get bored because I won't be able to like goof around, right? Just like it's for me it's like that's the dip that I don't like, the gap that I don't like.
It's always come down to social contract at that point, because it's not the same investment in time and energy. A 1D 2D game experience, goofing around, having fun, laughing, giggling with your friend, and with the game as a pretext. Some people drink, some people get high, and all that. It's one thing. It doesn't demand much time, doesn't demand much energy. But big, serious 3D 4D game, with investment and keeping the tone and all that, role playing heavy.
That's taxing.
Oh, it's taxing, and you need to know the rules, and you need to know them well, and you need to, to discuss before and discuss after, and all that.
Yeah. But the social time is important, and like oftentimes, like when you're adult, you spend like you see your friend once in a while and say, "Oh, we should do something sometime," right? You cross them at the grocery store, and then you never do anything, right? I think something like, okay, let's make Friday night, or the every first Saturday of the month, like let's spend the day gaming together, right? It's an excuse to do something, to get together. Then you can have a meal through that, like, and that's serve an important like social function.
Of course, eating at the same time and rolling dice and role playing. It's an experience in and of itself. I noticed something now that we are talking. It's kind of like a segue. It's interesting. I think that the 3D and 4D approach or style, I think it's harder in person. Keeping a tone, staying in character all the time around the table. When you have people sometimes that go to the bathroom or whatever, or let's say you have a social contract to stick together at the table for 3 hours, and then we're gonna take a pause. But I think in when you are in alone in your room, in front of a camera with 4 people around the world, everybody's serious, everybody's in that setting. I think it might be easier than in person.
There's I think that you might be right. You can be very focused. Because I feel like I have my earbud on, right? Like, I'm kind of like I'm in my room here, like with nothing distracting me, because
nothing distracting. When you are in person, you see the face of your friend. Your friend is, you can do anything. You can play with his beard or something. You can get distracted. There's a cat coming in the background, or I don't know. There's so many things happening when you are face to face that can get in the way. That when
you lose something in the sense that sometimes it's harder to not interrupt somebody because there's a little delay, and then it's hard sometimes to get like when somebody's about to speak, and so we need, I think, to stick to a more like round robin kind of format because of that. Maybe you could have like more natural conversation in person, but you might be right. Maybe it is a more suited
but
form.
also it's rare that you have a group in person that all agree upon doing that way. So it's just a lot of stuff that makes it hard.
Crispy would be the right guy to talk about that because he does have like an in-person group and that opportunity doing that style. So
yeah, he did it.
Yeah,
he managed
it'd be interesting to ask him at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Full Metal Slave was saying that's an incredible point. I think that was talking about like the media that all became like jokey and cannot take it seriously. All media has broken down into gathering to pour humor interjection.
Yeah.
It's very unfortunate. It's a cultural thing, right? It's like, I don't know why. I kind of know why. Like that's what I think. Like somebody was saying, "Man, child" was what I was looking for, right? Yeah, everybody like there's no adult anymore.
Yeah, I think that it might also be political, and I don't want to get too ideological here, but I think there is something about keeping people a little bit stupid, keeping people a little bit disengaged, keeping people, what's the expression? I get bread and games. Bread and circus.
Yeah. No, you don't want to. You don't want people to think for themselves, and like you want to keep them distracted.
If you give them media that is too thoughtful and too thought provoking,
but I think also that it might be like. I think like it's not like you don't mature in life by the age, right? It's by the life experience that you get. And I think now life is like so easy and so comfortable for most people that and you always have like this government like being your mommy all the time, right? And you always people are isolated from the consequence of the action, right? People make poor decision, and then like the government came save them from the result of their poor condition, so they never get to learn. So I think there's that as well, right? So keeping people in like too much comfort and luxury makes men weak and women bitchy.
Oh, of course, man. And there's also probably an argument that can be made about all the. Now it's becoming super political, but about antidepressant and people on pills at young age, poor food. So the food is so bad that
I'm gonna say
like
something that's gonna make some people mad.
puberty is late. So
Marijuana,
the guys are becoming
and
adult very late.
drug use, and,
Drug.
and weed, and like something like some people I don't like. I don't know if you smoke. I don't care, but like something I say oftentimes, like every day you smoke is the day that you don't mature emotionally, because like if you or same thing if you drink and stuff like that. Like if you
It's a
take some
depressant.
substance, if you take some substance to suit yourself instead of dealing with the thing that stress you out, right? Then you don't learn to deal with this thing that
You
stress you
don't
out.
learn. Exactly.
Yeah,
You don't learn. And it's a depressant. So you stay in that loop.
yeah.
So especially stuff like weed makes you eat
Because
more.
like the problem with weed is like it's so easy to do every day, right? You come
Oh,
home from work, and now you just like start smoking, and like because you got stress from work. Well, if your work stress you so much, maybe you should do something about it, right? Instead of like just like
yeah,
soothing
numbing
yourself.
it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway,
So of
that's like
course you have all that, putting all together, and you end up with that caricature.
I say that, and I'm a drinker, right? So like I'm in the glass house. You're throwing rock, but it is what it is. Yeah. Fourth wall breaking are why I hate Deadpool, and I
Hmm.
know that that's the point of Deadpool. But man, I thought that stuff was funny when I was 10, and I think like for Deadpool, because that's the point, right? Like I'm not against comedy, right? You can make a funny movie sometime, but I don't want every movie to be a funny movie sometime, right?
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
the matter of tone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, if you don't like it, I think the English word. Oh yeah,
Man child. Oh yeah, they have one. Yeah,
yeah. Kidolo was saying Dark Souls is fun, but doesn't always feel like it. And that's, I love Dark Souls. Like that's my favorite video game. And I think that's a good example of the experience of role play, right? It's not fun in the moment. It's fun afterward.
it's always after. It's
It's
and
rewarding.
me, Runeslinger and I have been very talking about that a lot throughout the year. Is the idea that story happens after. It's when the game stops and you look back and
Yeah,
you realize
exactly.
all you've done. Because
Yeah,
if there is any part before that where story is happening or interject or anything, it's because something is railroading, so GM is putting stuff there, forcing it, or
yeah,
quantum ogering stuff, or the player comes with an agenda.
yeah,
If nobody comes with an agenda, GM and player, it's just gonna be emerging stuff, emergent play, and afterward the story is after. It's always after me, at least in my book, because if you prep a little bit too much, you're gonna try to reinforce it somehow, and you just everything's gonna feel forced. That's my belief, personally.
no, I agree with you. I agree with you on that. Yeah. Canticle of Restlessness was saying character development needs a long-term campaign to really do that and really interact with the setting. I kind of disagree with that. I think you can have
What's a
character.
long-term campaign? 5 session or 20
Well,
session?
like, yeah, exactly. Like if you mean like 5 session, yeah, okay, that's fine. I'm okay with that. But I think you can have character development in a short campaign, like in 5 session, right, or something like that.
Mhm.
Maybe even in 3. If you start with a character that's well defined, and the character is not going to be the same. You watch a
If
movie
the
and you're
stakes
gonna
are high, right
yeah,
away,
exactly. When you're in those critical situation, like you can have a character arc pretty fast.
Mhm.
Like you watch a movie and the movie's gonna be 2 hours, and you're gonna have character development in that if it's a good movie, right?
Mhm.
If you come up with a well-defined character from the start and the character is not the same at the end, then you add character development. Might not be like the most, might be on one aspect of the character. It's not like a whole new different character, but you can still have character. So I would disagree with that one. I don't think you need a long campaign. You can have more in a long campaign. You can have more opportunity. You can change in a few ways, or have character change that's more gradual, which can be interesting. But you can have in short one as well, and interact with the setting. If you want to explore the setting more, yeah, that longer campaign can be
For sure.
worthwhile.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
doubt.
And a Full Metal Slate, where I can stand using film term for role playing, moving the camera or zooming. Ah, man, I fucking hate that. Moving the scene to the
Man,
first.
Full Metal Slate. Don't if you hate those, check out Operators. I mean, it's all about that. The game
Yeah.
comes even with cards, and the
All right.
cards are move superhero game where they go by.
Yeah.
That's
By
exactly
panel of
exactly
page.
what it
Yeah,
is.
exactly. Like,
Exactly what
yeah.
it is.
It's like I'm not trying to role play a comic book story. I'm trying to role play a superhero, right? And whatever. Yeah. The reason
Sometimes.
to clown around in a what?
Oh no, keep going, keep going.
The reason to clown around in RPG if you role playing a court jester. I think that's something I want to talk about as well. That's like playing the character that's supposed to be funny, right? That is like by definition funny.
Yeah.
And I think that's hard because like now you have to kind of be funny like on demand, which is not easy.
You can be a walking tragedy. Let's
Yeah,
say let's say you are a
like
court
Pagliacci.
jester. You're supposed to be funny, but you're just bad at it, and life gets in the way, and you so you can try hard and you are goofballing, but you are in character.
Yeah,
That's your concept, and it doesn't break immersion because it's part of the setting.
but
The
you can
setting.
easily become just annoying, right, for other character around, like someone with a
That's a
yeah.
matter of balance. Yeah.
And like, what if you know like we often like there's often this debate like, oh, what if you want to play a smart character, but you're not very smart as a person, right? And people have opinion about that. What if you want to play a funny character, but you're not very funny as a person? Do you have to know your limit, right? Oh, maybe if you cannot do it, right? Or can you say like, oh, my character is funny, so if I say something that you get that meant it to be funny, try to role play like if it was, right? You're supposed to find my character funny. Like, wouldn't that be like fucking
Ah,
cringy?
it's very interesting topic, that because I remember some old debates. It's the idea that, okay, so if I play a scientist, should
Yeah,
I know a little bit of science, or can I just roll my science skill, and get the result, and then I just do some science babble to kind of cover the old idea, and I can get around with it, or should I play characters that are in my range of capacity as a
yeah,
role player, and I think that is a kind of controversial debate.
yeah.
Some
I think
people
for like
say that.
for the intelligence or like the scientist character, I think like just have some terms to throw around that are ready, right? Like you don't need to know like term that sound kind of like sciencey and stuff like that, and then like people can play along that it makes sense what you just said, like
Mhm.
the technobabble. Smart character, oftentimes I say like, well, then if you're supposed to be a smart character and you say something about the world or about like as a GM, maybe I'll say that, oh yeah, I'll make you correct, right? I'll
Mhm.
push the world in a direction that, yeah, you know what you're talking about. You make something you said something about the world, so now this is what the world is like, right? Or if you play a dumb character and you say something about the world, well, you might just be just wrong, right?
The opposite. I see the opposite more often. You're supposed to be dumb, but you play smart because you
Yeah,
don't want to. You don't want to get hurt, or you don't want to
yeah,
lose your character.
yeah,
That
that's a
I
problem
see
as
more
well.
often, and that is kind of like an immersion breaker sometimes.
Yeah, 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 it's kind
For
of like a
some reason.
metagaming in a sense. Like you're not in character, right? You're
Yeah,
you- you're
yeah,
you're in the mindset of the character, but
yeah.
also like but funny. That
Funny,
one I
funny is some
that
actors are famous to say that being funny or acting funny or being comedic is one of the toughest thing.
yeah,
So, some actor mentioned it in an interview. I don't say role play is acting, but since you have to embody a character
yeah,
and you're trying to fake funny, nah, man, I think it happens in the spur of the moment around the tables. It has to, otherwise, let's go.
yeah,
At least I can't. I
yeah.
don't know
No,
about you, but
I think like no, I think like for funny, like for me, like I'd say like if you're not funny as a person, maybe refrain from playing a funny character, and also like there's no, let's be honest, also there's no like mechanical impact. Like, maybe you want to play the smart character because we play the wizard and stuff like that, right? Okay, that's fair enough, right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
The thing also, let's say you're not smart, and you. But the problem that check this out, Max.
Let's just say that, right?
No. The problem, Max,
You
is
can
that
say it, Sam. I'm not
no,
smart.
no. The problem, no, I know we can say it. The problem, Max, is that most people who are not smart, they don't know they're not smart, so they don't
Yeah.
even, they don't even care. So, but let's say you're not smart, and you know that you're not the sharpest tool in the box.
Yeah.
You can still play a smart character just by faking a smart attitude. You don't have to be logical, or you don't have to be like super like empathic and smart and understand people behavior and deductive and all that. Just have an attitude. It's just an attitude sometimes. A good attitude that you stick to goes a long way in RPG. If you stick to it, you're constant with it. Everybody around the in the group is going to get familiar with it, and it's going to re-improve the role play. So just to stick to a few quirks, smart quirks, like I don't know, you just something that
There are some people who like say like maybe you should avoid play.
I think me when
there's some fucking dumb people I love, right? Like I don't value people based on how smart they are, right? I don't think you're born smart, you're born dumb, right? It's something like you can change a bit in life, but not that much, right? So I don't put value on people based on how smart they are. Like I put value on how good people they are, right?
And also just for the viewers, you always the dumb guy for someone and the smart guy for someone. And the thing is that you don't really know where you are in that range, so you should be humble. I mean, you see, everybody I mean, you've met, Max, some people, sometimes you listen to them, you're like, man, I'm not in that league. These guys, they catch things like that, they remember things like that, and I'm like, okay. Or they have lots of energy and they can do a lot of things. And then you have other people, you're like, okay, I'm gonna be the better man here, because but me, when I play though, one thing that I care about. Let's say I'm a GM and I have people making character, or I'm a player and I have to choose a character that I want to create. I look for the complexity of the rules that are associated with what I'm trying to do. If I'm not able if let's say you play Shadowrun and you don't want to read the rules and you don't understand, don't do a hacker or don't do a rigger, because the rules are going to be too crazy, stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Some people, the kind of rules
with a wizard. Yeah.
Don't play something complicated if you're not that person.
Yeah.
And it's the same goes for funny and goofballing. If you are a goofball, don't play a dramatic, depressive character, because you're not going to be portrayed well.
Sometimes it could be a challenge. Sometimes you can try it, right?
Oh, of course you can.
Yeah.
But sometimes some people just can't not be funny. It's in their face. It's in their voice. It's everything.
People are just funny looking.
It's just funny. It's just the way they speak, the way they think.
Yeah.
They're just funny. They sometimes they look at you and they smile, and you're like, ah.
To be honest, I don't know if I encountered that. Like somebody like, and I don't know if I encounter somebody like that is naturally funny, but trying to be like this serious character, being dramatic and stuff like that. I don't think if I, it's like Steve Carell, right? That is a funny actor, right? Funny, like a funny guy.
Oh, but
sometimes, like in those movies, he make those dramatic. Yeah.
Oh man, the movie with Timothée Chalamet, is his son is a drug addict.
I don't watch a movie with Chalamet.
I know you don't like the guy, but that's a very good movie. So Steve Carell, he's playing the father, and Timothée Chalamet is like this teenager kid, and they have a great relationship, I think, at the beginning. But the kid, Timothée Chalamet, starts to become a drug addict, and the movie is becoming very sad and very dark. And the father that sees his kid falling apart in front of him. And I was used to Steve Carell in
in The Office.
The Office. So I was watching, and I was like, "Is it the same guy?"
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah,
but
it was a very tough movie.
Like the guy that's the funny guy trying to go like dramatic can lead to great result, but the other way around it's harder.
Adam Sandler
Yeah,
did it in the movie with was a jeweler in the movie was trying to I don't know.
Yeah, a jeweler. That's what finished that word.
Oh wow!
Don't stop mid word. No, he is too, but
Yeah,
in real life and in the movie, but
yeah,
but,
man. But so yeah. Of course.
Defense mechanism of laughter making fun of something that's very true and it's very sad. And I wanted to also like GM Cody was saying I would like to play in a game with Sim OG, and
of course
there's a guy that can be fucking funny in a game.
GM Cody?
GM Cody, yeah.
I don't know.
He can be like very funny in character. We played in the game in the World game with him, and he played like in Bears games a lot. A lot. In some Bears game. And
is he French Canadian?
No, he's American from the South, I think. But I forgot exactly where. Tennessee, I would say something like that. I might be wrong, but he get it right. Like the comedic, like bringing some comedy in the game without derailing the game, without like just like goofballing and stuff like that.
Wow, that's hard.
Yeah.
Sorry. I would like to play myself as well, Jim Cuddy. Maybe one day we'll see.
Should
if you are on the Discord with these guys, maybe one day.
Yeah. Max's character refused to like mine. In fact, yeah, that's. Yep, maybe that's a bad habit I have. I have characters that don't like other. When everyone at the table is omniscient and know everything each player is doing at the battlefield, so bad. That's man. Like, and that slowed down the game so much. And they're like, there's no immersion there, right? That's made me so much.
Yeah, man.
Being funny, a funny character is different than being in a funny game.
There you go.
There you go.
Very different.
That nails it.
It's a fine line.
Yeah. And funny game are tough. Well, funny game on purpose are tough. Mm-hmm. You can let a game like just. I think that'd be like my wrapping up thought, right?
Yeah, it's a good idea. It's 2 hours. Yeah, I was watching the time. Yeah, go ahead.
Like if you try don't be embarrassed by playing in this hobby, right? Like treat it like if you were doing music or sports and stuff like that. Something that you might have done since you were young. You shouldn't do it as the same way that you were young. And there's nothing wrong with like keeping doing something that you enjoy doing, right? But take it seriously, and so you won't feel the need to always diffuse the tension and always like, oh, isn't that silly what we're doing? And if you can have some comedy in game, keep it in character and embrace it when it happens. Don't try to force it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'd be like my big takeaway from this conversation tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say, and it's a little bit redundant, but if you want to play funny, make it sure that in the social contract, also try to find a game that supports it well as well.
Yeah.
Genre and system that supports it well. And if you don't, same thing applies. So like you said, Max, like short sessions, short campaigns, system that supports it, and social.
If you want to have a serious game, that's also another big takeaway I think from the night. If you want a serious tone, don't like leave some breathing room as well for like a moment of levity, because like you cannot be tense all the time. But like nobody can tolerate that. So you have to have some moment to release the tension, but make them appropriate moment in the game, in what's happening.
There you go. Hey, that was a good conversation, man.
Yeah, I think it was a useful, and I think we draw back we drew some conclusion, which is always great.
There was some. I have some takeaway with me. Go
Yeah,
back.
we've uncovered some flesh.
Yeah, there was a cool conversation. Thank you for coming back on the episode from the podcast. It was cool to discuss, and I'll try to come back here more than 2025. I'm trying to stay on the lookout.
Yeah. You know when I pose those topics, and you're welcome to join. So thank you for joining me tonight, and for proposing that we do have this talk. I watched your podcast and said, you know what, that's a good topic to discuss. I want in on that. I thought you raised some interesting question, make some good point, and I want to talk to you about them.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for everybody that watched live in the chat, and thank you to everybody that's going to watch on the replay. Next time I'm going to be live, I believe, is going to be on Saturday, because we're doing a session 0 in the afternoon at like 2:00 p.m. Eastern time, so 1400 EST. We're doing a session 0 for a 5e micro campaign we're gonna make with some different people than I usually play with. So that's gonna be
and you're gonna have a live for the session 0.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Am I gonna be watching?
Yeah. So we're gonna decide what kind of game we're gonna play. We always discuss some idea. We'll see if that's where we're going. But and we're gonna try to make 5e works for us, right?
5e is good for 4D. I'm pretty sure it works. I'm pretty sure it works.
I think it's doable. I think it's doable. Yeah. But anyway.
All right.
It's the Desert Goblin again. Yes, exactly. We might do like a monster game, but we'll discuss about that.
All right, Max. Talk to you soon.
Yeah. Take care, guys. Bye.